What is going on, everybody? If you clicked on this video, you are most likely looking for some running backs to grab in the draft to get an edge over all of your fantasy football league mates, and lucky for you, this is the exact video you need to be on to get that information. With that being said, if you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It's free, it takes 2 seconds, and if you're already in this video, you're already looking for the information, so you might as well not lose it, and hit that like button too while you're at it. But you guys know me, and I do not like to waste time, so in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys a list of my top must-have running backs that could possibly win you a league in fantasy, as well as a sneaky handcuff list of handcuff running backs at the end of this video, so make sure to watch it all the way through. And if you guys don't know what a handcuff running back is, it's essentially just a backup running back to a starter that does have value and does have a way to get volume that is really beneficial in fantasy and has the room to produce as a starter if all goes right, but I'll get into all that later in the video. But the very first running back that you need to have on your team come fantasy football season is James Conner, and I cannot believe how low this dude is going in drafts. He's finished as a top 10 fantasy football running back for the past few years, but his draft position is not showing that at all. Right now, he's being drafted as the RB25 behind guys like Cam Akers, Alvin Kamara, and DeAndre Swift. I don't know why people keep disrespecting him. I get that he's in a really bad offense and probably the worst team in the NFL this upcoming season. Over the last half of last season, in the same bad offense when he came back from injury, he averaged over 20 fantasy points a game and 21 touches a game and 100 total yards a game. Like, those are really good numbers. And if he could do all of that with the Cardinals ranking second worst in the NFL in total offensive production, he can do it again. And a lot of people are making the case that, well, Kyler Murray's going to be injured for most of the season. He's not going to produce. His offense is just going to be completely avoidable. But he was more efficient when Kyler Murray was missing time. When Kyler Murray wasn't the quarterback, they leaned more on the rushing game, and he was the absolute bell cow of this offense. And speaking of bell cow, the Cardinals didn't bring in any backup running backs. No new draft picks, no signings. The only running back behind him is Keontae Ingram. So all of this production in the 7th round is perfectly good for me. Even if he does bust, it's a 7th round pick, and those picks aren't necessarily safe anyways. But a true RB1 in a run-heavy offense in round 7 is insane. I'm picking him up everywhere I can. The next running back on this list that you easily need to consider drafting and is a must-draft running back this year is David Montgomery, and he is finally starting to get the praise that he deserves. But with that being said, he's still being drafted as the RB28 behind guys like Isaiah Pacheco, James Cook, and Javonte Williams in round 7 or even 8. And this makes him an absolute steal. Like, I cannot explain this to you guys enough. The Lions just signed him for a 3-year, $18 million deal, which I think is the second highest free agent running back deal of the entire offseason. They're gonna use him and get their money's worth. If we learned anything from the Zeke and Tony Pollard situation, Zeke was getting paid a bag, and maybe, yes, Tony Pollard was more efficient, but they would not start him over Zeke no matter what. The NFL at the end of the day is a business, and we need to take that into account when we're drafting for fantasy. So that alone gives him some level of floor, because he's getting all that money, he's gonna get some kind of work. Now, yes, the Lions did go out and draft Jahmyr Gibbs with the 12th overall pick this year, but that doesn't mean they both can't be efficient in this offense, and let me explain why. Last year, the Lions were the best fantasy football backfield in the entire league. They averaged 30 fantasy points a game in total of all of their running backs, and that is insanely high. That number is crazy. But for most of you guys listening, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, Jamal Williams got 17 touchdowns last season. Obviously, any backfield with somebody getting 17 touchdowns is going to be the top. Like, that's just given. But to that I say, if you were to take out every single one of Jamal Williams' touchdowns, all 17 of them, their backfield would still rank top 12 in the NFL in fantasy points per game. Name me another backfield where you can take the top running backs, all of his touchdowns, and there's still a top backfield. There's none. It's just not possible. The point here being is that David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are essentially exactly what Swift and Jamal Williams were, but just upgrades. They're both better than both of those old running backs. They just upgraded this backfield. And Gibbs and Monty are completely different backs. Jahmyr Gibbs is an insane pass catcher, and David Montgomery is an insane yards for yard push running back. They're not going to take from each other. And just to add icing on this cake, another secret stat that most people don't really take into account when looking at this backfield is that Jahmyr Gibbs weighs just under 200 pounds. And that might not seem like a big deal, but David Montgomery weighs almost 225 pounds. That's pretty much a 30-pound difference between the two running backs. And I'll leave this up to your interpretation. If you are at the goal line and you need a tough push for 1 or 2 yards, which one are you going with? That's what I thought. So all of this work in the backfield is going to be shared between the two, but that does not mean his value is gone out the window. In the 7th round, I am loving that ADP. I'm picking him every time. But the next must-draft running back I have on this list is Nick Chubb, and this is nothing but to be expected. He has been moving up draft boards a considerable amount over the past month. I used to be able to get him in the mid to early 2nd round, and now he's pretty much a back of the 1st round pick. And this is all completely justified because Kareem Hunt is no longer on the team, and that's the one knock you've been able to put on him But now it's not there. Again, going back to the Tony Pollard and Zeke analysis, if Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are splitting the backfield, they both are putting ceilings and caps on their abilities to perform. It's just a given. If you only have 50% of the snaps, there's only so much you can do with it. But now it is all Nick Chubb, and there's no running back behind him to take what Kareem Hunt's role was. The only running back behind him is Jerome Ford, the main punt returner for this team, who I do think is a good handcuff, but that is for another part of the video. Chubb has and will continue to be the most efficient yard per yard fantasy football running back in the entire NFL, and if you've watched any of the Browns games, you know this is a fact. This offense is only going to improve this year with Deshaun Watson getting a full offseason to work with this team. Their offense is no longer tailored toward Tyrod Taylor, and they can finally make a true offense that fits with these guys. And honestly, Chubb has the opportunity to become a prominent pass catcher with Hunt gone now. And that would just make his floor and ceiling even higher every single week. In the last game of the season, in week 18, he played a season high 75% of the snaps, and he ran a route on 71% of the dropbacks, catching 5 out of 6 targets thrown his way, and that is just a glimpse of the pass catching ability he might get this season. This dude is already averaging 100 yards on the ground every single game with red zone upside, and if he gets receiving upside too, it is over for the NFL. But as promised, I do want to get you guys this last group of handcuff running backs that will be very valuable this year for many reasons, and let me explain. I love ending my drafts with high upside backup running backs because we all know that the running back position is the most volatile in the NFL, especially with this year with all the holding out, the contracts, the injuries, all of that stuff. It is super unpredictable. So ending your draft with backup running backs that are in actual favorable positions is really good, and I'm going to explain to you how you can hunt for these positions and some good running backs to handcuff that you should draft. Starting out with Chubb Hubbard going as the RB58, being drafted in round 14 right now. He might even be undrafted in most of your leagues. He's going behind guys like Raheem Mostert and Tajay Spears and a whole bunch of other backup running backs, but let me explain why he is the one that you need to target. People are just sweeping him under the rug after newly signed Miles Sanders has joined the Panthers team, but people are forgetting how efficient and good his 2022 season was. He was 6th in yards per touch and running back efficiency, and he did all of that splitting the backfield with Donta Foreman last year. There's also no backups behind Miles Sanders and Chubb Hubbard, so these two are going to be the guys no matter what. We can expect Chubb Hubbard to get anywhere from 6 to 10 carries a game, along with whatever kind of receiving upside and work that he does have. And Hubbard is only 24. He still has a lot of explosive years to come. All it takes is for one injury to Miles Sanders for this dude to be a true league-winning workhorse running back. And let me explain, because Miles Sanders getting injured is not an uncommon occurrence. Sanders has had 9 injuries over the past 3 seasons, which eventually equates to him missing 20% of his games. There's so many opportunities for Chubb Hubbard to mean something to this offense, and him going in the 14th, 15th, 16th round is an absolute steal. But the next handcuff running back that you need to be looking for to absolutely win you a league is Jaylen Warren going as the RB56. He's going right in front of Chubb Hubbard around guys like Devin Singletary and Tank Bixby. As we all know, he is the Steelers' RB2 right behind Najee Harris, and this backfield is a pretty valuable one. And there is no competition outside of Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. With these 7 picks that they had in this year's draft, they did not take one rookie, and they didn't sign any running backs at all. No running backs were brought in this offseason. This just means that the Steelers have a lot of faith in Warren to be this backup and Najee to do what he does. Warren led every single running back in the entirety of the NFL in efficiency per touch. Granted, he did have less than 100 carries, so it's going to be a little bit skewed, but this is still a really good depiction of his talent. You saw a little bit of what he could do when Najee was injured. He can come in and out of this game, and he was still really efficient when he did play. So he has the capability to take all of this backfield volume if Najee Harris were to get injured. So if you did draft Najee Harris and you just want a high upside running back to take in the late rounds, he is a guy to do it with. And the next handcuff running back I want to give you on this must draft running back list is Elijah Mitchell, running back of the 49ers, as we all know. Right now he's being drafted as the RB43 in round 11 before some of these other guys that we just talked about. And once again, pretty obvious, if Christian McCaffrey were to get injured like he does a lot, he's going to be a league winner, and I've used this strategy so many times for myself over the past few years. I've just drafted the backup to Christian McCaffrey, and because he gets injured so many times, his backup gets so much value, and I've won leagues doing this. A lot of people are worried about, well, if Christian McCaffrey does go down, they're probably going to try to revert to a 3 running back committee system like they tried last year, but that's not really going to happen because they don't have much backups behind these 2 guys. They just have the guys that they had last year, and they tried to get involved, but they weren't efficient, so they really pose no threats. Outside of just the fact that Christian McCaffrey might get injured, he's another really efficient back. He ranked 8th in running back efficiency and 10th in points per touch over his career span. Dude is good. So I love drafting him as another one of my high upside handcuff running backs this year, just with another late round last pick. But the last handcuff running back that I do want to talk about on this list, and I have been drafting religiously in my fantasy drafts, is Tank Bixby. He's going as the RB53 in round 12, which again is very, very low, especially for him, and for multiple reasons. He might not have had the best combine stats. It was about average, but the Jaguars still took him in the 3rd round to back up Travis Etienne. and that is high draft capital. And a lot of people seem to think that Travis Etienne's value in this offense is cemented based on last year, but it's really not, and he didn't have much competition. They tried to split this backfield with James Robinson early in the season, but he got injured and it inevitably didn't work. And they tried this with multiple other running backs, but they got injured and just never ended up playing. And it made Travis Etienne the only running back for the entirety of the season. That's why he got so much volume. But they clearly want to find someone to work next to Travis Etienne, and they just grabbed Tank Bixby in the 3rd round. Doug Peterson has been talking about how he wants to build out this running back room for the longest time since he got to the team, and this fits exactly with Tank Bixby, and I know for a fact this is what's going to happen. But the real reason Doug Peterson saying this, and him being such a high draft pick and being an actual valuable player in fantasy football, is because he's going to get a majority, if not all, of this receiving upside and volume from this offense. The good thing about this is if he can cement himself in the pass catching ability, especially in PPR leagues, this is a massive advantage for us. And the other half of it is that if he already has a cemented role in the pass catching and he's going to be on the field a decent amount, if anything were to happen to Travis Etienne, he is locked into a receiving and rushing role, which Travis Etienne wouldn't either way get. And I'm sure by now you've seen the trend that I have with all of these handcuff running backs that I like to draft. They all have value on their own with their own talent, but they're also in an amazing backfield situation. If their starter were to get injured, there would be no committee backfield to turn to. It would be just them. That is what I look for all of these handcuff running backs. A lot of running backs don't have this opportunity, but all these guys I listed would be the bell cow if their starter got injured. And as we know, fantasy is a week-by-week game, and most running backs miss at least one game a season. So if anything, they can win you at least one game for just being your last round pick. So with that being said, that is going to finish off this video of the top must draft, must grab running backs, as well as some handcuffs that I did want to give to you guys as some good high upside players with your last picks. And if you've made it to the end of this video, I seriously appreciate you, and go ahead and turn on your post notifications so when I post these videos, you know when to find them and where to find them, so you don't miss any of this fantasy football information, because this game is always changing. So thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.